One of the most mysterious or even controversial topics in Naruto is the fact that Kakashi awakened a Dual Mangekyou Sharingan, or DMS, and then he proceeded to use the Perfect Susanoo with it. Now, collectively, the Naruto fanon kinda has the same opinion about this fact, and it's essentially that, well, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for Kakashi to awaken the Dual MS here, and even more so to awaken the Perfect Susanoo and have all those crazy abilities with the Kaguya and stuff, but it looks really cool, and Kakashi is a nice, cool character, so we don't really care that much about it not making any sense whatsoever. We're just gonna see the fight for what it is, and it's really good to see Kakashi using powerful jutsus, being able to fight alongside Rinnegan Sasuke and Sage of Six Paths Sage Mode Naruto. Some people are gonna be more open to turning a blind eye to this aspect of the series, others are gonna be more critical about it. Well, it doesn't make sense, it kind of breaks the universe. But the thing is, Kakashi loses the power after the Kaguya fight, so it doesn't really affect much more than the fight itself, which is a good thing. I mean, if Kakashi kept those insanely powerful abilities, it could have been very problematic. Because if you think about it, Kakashi was so powerful in that point of the story that he was more powerful than a theoretical Dual Mangekyou Sharingan Obito in his prime. He was able to phase through objects as well as Obito could, and that was the entire Obito shtick. He was one of the most powerful Naruto characters just because he could phase through things. He could also use Kamui Raikiri, infusing Kamui into his other jutsu, something that Obito never really does. Obviously, he had a Perfect Susanoo, which makes you more powerful than any tail beast by design, and then he also had Kamui Shuriken, and we can only imagine he would also have more stuff if he had more time to fight against Kaguya there. Obviously, he capped his long-distance Kamui just like he had prior to this fight, so it's absolutely insane everything Kakashi was able to accomplish with a Dual Mangekyou Sharingan, and well, this character was one of the most powerful characters in the entire series. It's just kind of unfortunate that we got to see this character in one of the worst fights in the series against Kaguya, a character nobody cares about, but that's beside the point for this video. What I want to do here is to forget for a second how cool Kakashi looks with a Perfect Susanoo and how amazing his new abilities are, and try to understand exactly how did Obito do this? How was he able to transfer his powers over to Kakashi? And also, why was Kakashi so freaking powerful with them? Yeah, some people will say, well, it's just a plot hole. Kishimoto was doing fan service. He just wanted Kakashi to be extremely powerful because a lot of people like Kakashi. And this is not wrong. It's definitely true. I mean, Kakashi was not terribly relevant in the fight against Madara, and he also wasn't even present in the fight against Obito, but Kakashi had to be present for the quote-unquote final fight of the series, even though Naruto and Sasuke is the final fight, but the final fight of the War Arc, where Team 7 was gonna fight together for the last time, was gonna be that fight, so Kakashi definitely had to be present, and Kishimoto had to find a way to make him relevant, unlike Sakura, which, well, she did a couple of things in the Kaguya fight, but she was definitely not as powerful or important as Kakashi was in the end. I mean, she punched Kaguya, and then she also helped Obito to Kamui Sasuke back into their dimension there, but Kakashi's contributions are much greater than Sakura's for sure. But they wouldn't have been if Kakashi wasn't given this boost of power, because Kakashi had actually lost his Sharingan prior to the fight, so he would just be, you know, a normal ninja kind of. He wouldn't have a lot of things to do. He was gonna Raikiri Kaguya or something, it wouldn't really work. I mean, Kamui Raikiri worked, but that was with Kamui imbued into it. And on top of that, obviously Kakashi is one of the fan favorite characters in the entire series, so fans wouldn't really complain that much about him being more powerful because, oh, it's one of my favorite characters, or it's literally my favorite character. I love seeing him that powerful with a Perfect Susanoo, outscaling Naruto and Sasuke in the end. It's crazy, I love that, even though it makes no sense. Or does it? Let's try to explain this in universe rather than out of universe, because obviously out of universe, Kakashi had to be powerful. Kishimoto wanted to make Kakashi powerful. He wanted to give the character a final nice moment. But in order for us to analyze what happened to Kakashi there and how he got those powers, you first have to look at Obito's death, which is one of the important events in the Kaguya fight and what actually prompts Kakashi to gain those powers. Now, at face value, what happens is that Obito gets hit with Kaguya's ash bone and then he disintegrates, and that was after he saves Kakashi because Obito and Kakashi jumped in front of the bone so that Kaguya wouldn't kill Naruto and Sasuke, and they were aided by quote-unquote Rin, that astral projection that helped Kakashi and Obito to overpower Kaguya's gravity dimension, even though Kaguya herself couldn't. But, you know, base Rin's really powerful. Of course, this is symbolic. It's not supposed to be, you know, a real thing. It's much more their will that's being powered up by the memory of Rin. At least that's how I interpret it. I don't see this actual astral projection of Rin in this scene. In universe, the characters are not seeing that. But then Obito dies and turns into dust. We then have a scene between Obito and Rin in Limbo, or some realm somewhere. Maybe it's the Pure Lands. I don't think Obito really deserves to go to heaven in this situation, but whatever, man. And it's a little bit creepy that they're both kids in there. I mean, Obito is a 30-year-old. Rin died at 13. A little bit weird, but at least Obito was a kid too. He wasn't an adult in that scene, so it's not as bad. Obito talks a little bit with Rin, and then he says, okay, you have to wait for me here a little bit longer because I still have to go and help Kakashi out with that little situation they had back in the realm of the living. And so Kid Obito kamuis himself out of that limbo realm he was talking to Rin, and then in the real world, we see chakra coming out of Obito's ashes and drifting straight towards Kakashi. And even though I'm not a big Obito fan, or even a DMS Kakashi fan, or even a Kaguya fan most of all, I don't like that fight whatsoever. The moment when Obito says, well, that was your nickname, right? Kakashi of the Sharingan, and then we see the panel with Kakashi and the two Mangekyou Sharingan, I always get shivers. That's an amazing cathartic scene. So at a surface value, it seems like Obito came back from the realm of the dead and gave some powers to Kakashi. Now, of course, it seems like that because that's how Kishimoto wanted to tell the story. He wanted Obito to have that encounter with Rin, and then he goes back to help Kakashi. Not only did he save Kakashi because he was taught no jutsu by Naruto and he came back to the good side, but now he is actually giving powers to Kakashi after saving his life from Kaguya's Ashbone. It's a final act of redemption for the character that's been trying to redeem himself ever since, well, he was taught no jutsu. And it fits nicely with the thematic of the entire Sharingan thing between Obito and Kakashi. It was always stated that the Sharingan works best when they're combined. That's why Kakashi and Obito made such a good duo when they had a Sharingan each, because they could complement each other. And now when Obito comes back from the dead and gives Kakashi two Mangekyou Sharingan, he's technically saying, yes, use the two Sharingan here, use my strength, because you are actually the person that deserved to use those Sharingan the most, much more than I did during my lifetime, because the only thing I ever did was mistakes. So this is Obito's final act before he can finally go with Rin, the realm of the dead, whatever they want to go. I don't know, man. Obito shouldn't go to heaven. But it doesn't really provide a good explanation as to how Obito was able to even transfer his powers when he was dead. We have a precedent for this type of thing happening. Somebody that's about to die passing on powers to somebody else. There's no name for this ability, but it existed before Obito did it with Kakashi. It happened in the Sasuke versus Itachi fight. Just when Itachi was about to die, he tapped Sasuke's forehead, implanting his own Amaterasu in Sasuke's eyes, which is programmed to go off whenever Sasuke looks at Obito's, or quote-unquote Madara's, Sharingan eye. Itachi wanted to make sure that quote-unquote Madara wouldn't approach Sasuke after the fight was done, because he didn't want quote-unquote Madara to influence Sasuke's decisions after Itachi's death. And we clearly see that the first time Sasuke uses Amaterasu, which is against Obito, he uses it with Itachi's Mangekyou Sharingan pattern, meaning that somehow Itachi was able to make his own Sharingan appear in Sasuke's eyeball and cast his jutsu through Sasuke's eye, which is pretty impressive, and Itachi was already dead by that point. And the neat thing is that it was also a Mangekyou Sharingan ability, the same thing Obito did to Kakashi here. He passed on his Mangekyou Sharingan ability so that Kakashi could use them with his own eyeballs, even though he technically didn't have Obito's Mangekyou eyes. We also see something kind of similar when Madara implants an Izanagi jutsu in his own eye whenever he's going to die, so he can fake his death before he dies to Hashirama and all that that kind of stuff. So this is an inherent ability that Mangekyou Sharingan users have. They can implant their own abilities into somebody else or even in themselves. There's no hand sign required, and Itachi just has to tap Sasuke in the forehead. Obito doesn't really have to do anything. He just like looks at Kakashi, dies, and then his ashes transfer chakra to Kakashi. But it's definitely something set up in universe, and it makes sense why that would happen. The big problem is that how on earth is Kakashi that powerful? Because when Sasuke uses Itachi's Amaterasu, it's just a normal Amaterasu. It doesn't look any more powerful than Itachi's Amaterasu. Actually looks weaker. It's way smaller. And Sasuke seems to have the same exact limitations Itachi had back when he was using his jutsus with the Mangekyou Sharingan. Sasuke's eye bled in that particular situation, and he also felt the strain of using Amaterasu, even though it technically wasn't even his jutsu. Kakashi, on the other hand, not only seems more powerful than anything Obito has ever done before, but he doesn't seem to be, struggling a lot with his Mangekyou Sharingan eyes. He's not putting his head in front of his eyes saying, "Oh, it hurts so much. When I use the Susanoo, every single cell in my body hurts," just like Sasuke was thinking in this 5 Kage Summit arc. Because remember, Obito did not have the eternal Mangekyou Sharingan, he just had the normal Mangekyou Sharingan. He didn't go blind because he had Hashirama cells to aid him with that particular aspect. Kakashi obviously didn't have Hashirama cells, but well, he shouldn't really go blind if the eyes start fresh, because he just used the eyes for like a couple of minutes at most in the Kaguya fight, so it's good in that regard, but he doesn't seem to be struggling at all. And sure, War Kakashi definitely got much more chakra than any previous version of Kakashi, but I would imagine that maintaining a perfect Susanoo, even for War Kakashi, would have been very difficult, and DMS Kakashi is doing that very easily, implying that his chakra pull is much more massive now that he got the Dual Mangekyou Sharingan. Even though Kakashi himself had fought several different battles before the Kaguya fight, Obito was practically dead. I mean, Obito, before he died, he used the Rinne Tensei and he got the Ten Tails extracted from him, two things that should kill you by their own merit, and he was still fighting, so he should be completely or almost out of chakra, and he was still able to send enough chakra to Kakashi to become one of the most powerful characters with a lot of chakra. There are a few explanations for that. The first one is that Obito was the Jinchuriki of the Ten Tails, as I mentioned before, and he should have some vestigial Six Paths chakra. This is very much confirmed when Obito still has access to his rod that he uses in the Jubito state after he loses the Ten Tails. It's not really a rod, it's more like a staff, but you get the point, right? He uses that to deflect Gudodamas from Jubidara, meaning that they still have the Gudodama property in the Kekeimora, and this is probably the reason why he survived after using Rinne Tensei for so long, because he still had this divine chakra imbued in his body, even after he lost the Ten Tails. And this chakra, it would make sense that he could transfer it over to Kakashi whenever he uses his Sharingan implanting method in Kakashi. Because there's the thing, people don't really awaken a perfect Susanoo when they only have a base Mangekyou Sharingan, do they? I mean, you could say that Indra has a perfect Susanoo with his base Mangekyou, but he didn't really have a brother he could take another Mangekyou from, and he was literally the son of the Sage of Six Paths, so he was more powerful than the average Uchiha, and because he was such a close relative to the Sage of Six Paths, the rules don't really apply that much to him. But other than Indra, prior to Kakashi, the only two characters that awoken the perfect Susanoo were Madara and Sasuke, two other Indra reincarnations. Sasuke didn't even awaken the perfect Susanoo when he had an eternal Mangekyou Sharingan. He only did so after he awoken the Rinnegan, which is pretty insane if you think about it. And granted, Sasuke only used the EMS for a day in universe at most, so he didn't really have that much time to evolve his abilities with the EMS, so when he receives Hagoromo's chakra and awakens the Rinnegan, it's kind of like a given that you're going to awaken the Susanoo, because you're just like beyond the power of a regular shinobi anyway. When we go back to Madara, we know that he was able to use the perfect Susanoo with just an EMS. I mean, I'm saying just here, but an EMS is a very big deal anyways. It's just that we are talking about such insane power levels that an EMS doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but it actually is. We don't know how long Madara took to awaken the perfect Susanoo after he got his EMS. We have to assume it was kinda soon by what they imply in the story, because Izuna dies, Madara gets his eyes, gets the EMS, and then the next thing Madara does is he's challenging Hashirama again, and he's using his Perfect Susanoo in that fight before they make the deal and create the Leaf Village. But Sasuke only had one day with his EMS, which that's fair, I suppose. He wouldn't have awakened it anyway. But we definitely never see anyone awakening the Perfect Susanoo with a base Mangekyou Sharingan. I mean, Itachi had a base MS for a pretty long time, almost a decade before he died. Shiso, we don't know exactly how long he had the MS for when he was alive, but he definitely didn't have a Perfect Susanoo. And Sasuke actually had the base MS for a decent amount of time before he got his EMS, and he also definitely did not awaken his Perfect Susanoo, so what gives? How is Kakashi able to use the Perfect Susanoo here? And this comes down to the very same reason why Sasuke awoken the Perfect Susanoo after he received Hagoromo's chakra, aka Six Paths chakra. When Sasuke received it, he immediately was able to use the Perfect Susanoo, and the same thing happened with Kakashi. However, he didn't receive it from Hagoromo himself, but from Obito when he came back from the dead. And now that Obito gave Kakashi both of his Mangekyou Sharingan, he had everything he needed to awaken the Susanoo, which is you have to have both Mangekyou Sharingan awaken, and their abilities have to be active, you have to be able to use them, and then he receives Six Paths chakra, which is a condition for you to awaken the Perfect Susanoo, which happened to Kakashi even though he didn't have an EMS. But then you're still maybe wondering, well, Obito didn't have a lot of chakra left when he died. Actually, he practically had none, and yeah, sure, he may had some vestigial chakra of the Ten Tails, but that, like, yeah, sure, you could in theory awaken the Perfect Susanoo, awaken the ability to use it, but Kakashi shouldn't have that much power, because Obito simply didn't have enough chakra to give to him when he was dying there. And Kakashi, he definitely turns the tide of the fight against Kaguya. He does a lot of insane stuff, he uses a Perfect Susanoo like he's not even caring about his chakra loss, and this vestigial Six Paths chakra theory doesn't seem to hold a lot of water as to why Kakashi is that powerful. And I agree, it doesn't, but combined with this sliver of Six Paths chakra that Obito still had in him, Obito also went through a very insane mental amp process in that particular scene when he was dying and then when he saw Rin. And the exact same thing can be applied to Kakashi here. We know that Naruto has a lot of mental amps and nerfs. This is something that happens every time in the series. One of the most iconic moments of this happening is when Naruto was fighting Gaara in the forest and he saw Gaara was about to kill Sakura, crushing her with his hand, and then out of nowhere, Naruto, without the Nine Tails' aid, was able to create 5,000 shadow clones, a feat that was probably never done by anybody in the history of the Naruto universe, and a 12-year-old Naruto was able to do it just because of his sheer mental amp, and of course because of his massive chakra reserves, but you get the point. Naruto in a regular state of mind should never be able to do that in that particular time of the story, and that's simply because he was so motivated to protect his friends. Now, when we go back to Obito's death, that was the moment Obito was at his peak potential when it comes to a mental amp, because that's when his character was completed. That was when he found salvation, finally. He died a satisfied man, telling Naruto to become a Hokage, to become the very thing he sworn to destroy. And Obito's story comes full circle. At first, he wanted to be a Hokage, he then denounced the Hokage. Even in the War Arc, he was telling Minato that being a Hokage is a stupid thing, and then, when he's about to die, he tells Naruto to become one, fulfilling his purpose in life and giving his own life to save Naruto, Sasuke, and Kakashi, in the process, his best friend. And to top it all off, he goes to Limbo and sees Rin after so many years, something that he's dreamed of probably every single day of his life after Rin died. Not only that, but Obito also had the sheer willpower to keep on protecting Kakashi so that he would protect the legacy of Team Minato and also his own legacy in the realm of the living. And also because now that he was a good guy, he wanted Naruto to succeed in becoming a Hokage, and he wanted the world to be saved. So he had this insane mental amp coming with everything his character revolved around. And the exact same thing applies to Kakashi here. When Obito dies, sacrificing his life for good, Kakashi is definitely sad about it. He didn't want Obito to die. When Obito was about to use the Rin Tensei to bring the entire alliance back, before Zetsu took him over and forced him to bring Madara back, Kakashi was saying, no, you can't atone for your sins. You don't have to sacrifice yourself right now. So Kakashi wasn't exactly happy for seeing Obito die, but he was glad that he died the way he did. And obviously Kakashi had the will to protect the entire world. This was a massively huge situation where his willingness to defend was at its peak power. And that's exactly how you get a mental amp in the Naruto story. Kakashi even states himself in the War Arc that protecting one's friends is how you can unlock further strength. So mechanically speaking, on top of Obito still having a bit of Six Paths chakra that enabled Kakashi to awaken a Perfect Susanoo after Obito implanted both of his Mangekyou Sharingan in Kakashi before he died, he also had an insane mental amp that came with it and imbued Kakashi with this copious amount of chakra and powerful chakra at that. This is where Kakashi all of a sudden got extremely fast, was able to use the Perfect Susanoo for long periods of time, was tossing Kamui Shurikens like nothing, was using Kamui Raikiri to wound Kaguya, and was absolutely fundamental in defeating her because of all these conditions. And yes, you may say it's a little bit forced the way Kakashi got this, because it seems a little bit too powerful even though you take all these things into account, but at least it's not as stupid as Ada casting a worldwide Kodo Matsukami in the entire population because Amado implanted God cells on her. So yeah, I can give Kakashi and his Perfect Susanoo a very nice pass. Watch this other video right here to find out why Kakashi didn't go blind whenever spamming his Kamui. Also subscribe if you haven't done so already, and like this video to help me out with the YouTube algorithm. It really does help. Thank you so much for watching.